With more on this, I'm joined by Simon Somogyi. He's chair in the business of food at the University of Guelph. Simon, good morning. Thank you for being on our program.
Thank you, Marcia.
So you are the Guelph University project lead on this. Tell us about the findings that stood out most for you. What do you think the takeaway is?
I think that's really interesting is a few things. We're seeing the potential for a 4 to 6% increase in vegetables, a 2 to 4% increase in fruit, as well as a similar increase at the restaurant. But I think what's very interesting is a decrease of 1 to 3% in the price of meat at the grocery store.
And why is that? What's behind these rising prices?
Well, if you break it down, if you look at vegetables, so vegetables are highly susceptible to weather events. So we're looking at an El Nino pattern coming soon. That means dry periods, particularly in parts of the USA where we get a lot of our fruit and vegetables from. We're also coming into winter where we have winter storms that impact the supply of the fresh produce that we need. And the problem with fruit and vegetables in particular is that they're so fragile. So small delays can have a big impact on price. When we talk about meat, meat's an interesting one. We've been doing this report for almost 10 years. This is the first time we're predicting a decrease in the price of meat, as I mentioned. We're thinking that's because about 2014, there was drought in Western Canada that decreased the herd of cattle dramatically. As a result, prices increased there. We're now seeing things getting back to a normal level of supply of meat.
So do you think this is a temporary or a permanent thing? Because people's diets, as you point out, are shifting to more plant-based diets. So what is the impact on this long term?
It's very interesting. The statistics show that Canadians are eating 95 million less kilograms of beef today than they were in 2010. And 3 million Canadians consider themselves to be vegetarian. So we are seeing a decrease in the consumption of meat and consequently the increase in the consumption of vegetables and vegetarian-based diets. So this is a trend that is becoming greater and greater. It's been driven by young people, particularly young, educated females. So as that consumer segment grows, we're going to see more and more people eating more vegetables and less meat.
But for some people, it's going to be hard to pay for a family to eat well, to eat a healthy diet. What can people who already struggle to afford their groceries do, if anything, to lighten their bills?
I think there's a number of things they can do. First and foremost, buy fresh fruit and vegetables in season. I know we have a very short season for fruit and vegetables in Canada, but buy in season will cut down the risk of having increased prices because of product that's shipped elsewhere. So buy local. The second point would be to avoid restaurants. Now, Canadians spend almost 35% of their food budget on food outside of the home, so restaurants. But try to avoid restaurants as much as possible. And the third point I would make is that only buy the food that you need. Too many people buy food because it's on sale and it ends up sitting in their pantry or their refrigerator and it spoils and goes off. So if people concentrate on those three things, that should help lessen the load.
Okay. Simon, thanks so much. Simon Somogyi is the chair in the business of food at the University of Guelph.